All morning, a lot of this stuff has been very redundant. I'm going to use this as mostly just a real quick wrap-up, but at the end I want to talk about something that hasn't come up yet that I think is probably on the forefront of all your guys' minds. My name's Tom Morrissey. I'm both the clerkship director and the assistant program director at Jacksonville, University of Florida's program. All morning we've been telling you about this tumultuous sea that you're going to have to navigate, and there's no end to the creatures that are living in there that are going to make your life tough as you go through the application process. We can't make these waves go away, but we can give you a bit of a toolkit to kind of surf these things so you can ride with it. You can get through this. It's a scary process ahead of you, but I guarantee the fact that you're here right now shows that you've got the motivation to get through this. I picked this picture on purpose because these dogs are doing the standardized video interview. You guys have heard of this, right? Yeah? Is anybody scared of it? Cool, we'll talk a lot about that in just a couple of minutes here. But I do want to put in a quick plug for the AAMC website. The entire toolkit for how to navigate ERAS is here. If you haven't been on it yet, and you probably have because this is probably how you got to VSAS in the first place, but spend some time here. Look through all the different drop-down menus under applying SMART to residency. They tell you a lot about how to get through the application process. They tell you a little bit about all the stuff we've been talking today. They even talk about managing finances. Perhaps most importantly, they're going to take you to some of the more granular stuff. The scheduling dates. When does ERAS open? When do you have to have your stuff in? Under, let's see, access to residency process timeline. That's going to give you a schedule. It's not up yet. I would have had that slide up here. I checked yesterday. It still wasn't up. It should be in the next couple of days. This is the stuff we've hit all morning, right? These are the components of ERAS. Some of this you have a lot of control over. Your personal information and your CV, you own that. You can build that. It comes in two flavors. One of them is the templated ERAS format, and one of them is your CV. You're going, oh God, why do I have to do this stuff twice? Partly because program directors will sometimes like to look at your CV to see your style. Some other program directors like to look at the, where's the arrow on this one here? It doesn't matter. The templated version because they know how to read it. It's a pain. Welcome to life as an adult. A lot of things are going to be a pain, but just roll through it. The thing I like about the templated one for your personal experience is at the bottom of each experience, there's a place to say what you got out of it. So if you were a barista at Starbucks, you can say, I learned how to deal with a bunch of angry people. If you ran your own lawn mowing business, you can say, I learned about the hassles of scheduling. That's what we're looking for, is not what experiences have you had in your background, but what did you take from the experiences? Are you the kind of person who's going to make yourself a little bit stronger, a little bit better every day? Your USMLE and your COMLEX and your transcripts, you don't have much control over that, but it is up to you to make sure they get uploaded on time. Schools sometimes screw this up, so at least stay on guard and watch for it and make sure it gets there. A complete application is going to be your best foot in the door. SLOs and other letters we've talked about a little bit. The personal statement we've talked about a little bit. Couple of quick rules of thumb here, and the one on top is probably the most important one. We have talked all day long about how we take applications seriously and about how we take interviews seriously, how we take our residents seriously. We take our patients seriously. We're about to invite you into our house, the most sacred place in the world. This is where we take care of our patients, and we're going to give you trust with our patients. We need to know that you're implicitly trustworthy. We get that students come from all different backgrounds, and some have great clinical training. Some of them are just really book smart, but don't have a lot of clinical training. Some of them have different experiences than others, and we can turn you all into great physicians. But we have to know at the get-go that you are implicitly trustworthy, that you're not going to lie, that you're not going to BS, you're not going to make stuff up. So if we see anything like that in the application, boy, you're in a deep, deep, deep hole. So please just be honest. You guys have heard us say all morning, we don't really care if you've done a ton of research or a little. We care about if you were honest about how you put that up there. So rule number one is just don't embellish, don't lie, be as honest as you can. Rule number two is be yourself. because different programs play better to different people. Different applicants will fit better in different programs, and we know our programs well. So if you're honest about who you are, we can let you know whether or not you'd be a good fit for our program. You want to be ahead of schedule, you want to be neat and concise, you want to proofread a little bit, stay on top of stuff, and don't click that certify button until you're sure that your application is lined up and good. Have people proofread it. Quick insight into what we are looking for. You guys have heard most of this all morning, but recognize that you can't please everybody. Just be honest on your application. It helps us if you show some long-standing interest in EM. So all of you guys have made the effort to come to this meeting. Most of you guys have been in your EMIG for a couple of years. Put that on there. When we see an application that has you in 5 different EM specialty like ASAP and EMRA and stuff like that, and you joined them all last month, and you were in the ortho EMIG for the last 3 years, we know that you're a latecomer to EM. So if there's something in your background that will allow you to show why you've got long-standing interest in EM, that carries a lot of weight with us.
Remember that the first of the Part B of the SLO is commitment to emergency medicine, and so just to echo that point, when we're writing these letters, there's not a lot of ways we look at or know how committed you are, but the ways are EMIG, EMIG officer, SAEM ambassador, went to SAEM, helped with the regional SAEM. So that's a whole tick box on the SLO.
Yeah, make sure that's obvious. Don't lose the opportunity to sell that. With regard to your previous experiences, use them to show us that you are somebody who gets along well with other people, that you can work and play well with others, that you're wired to work hard, because that's the core metal we're looking for. I don't really care if you're 215 or 255 on your board scores, but I care that you're the kind of person who works hard every day, gets along with people, and will continue to try and improve yourself. So don't miss the opportunity to sell that in your application. Let's change gears for a second. How much time we got before we're in trouble?
You got about 10 minutes?
Ah, plenty. All right, the standardized video interview. Do you guys know why this is here? In about 2015, 2016, the AAMC went to program directors and said, how is the ERAS application process working for you? Are we giving you the information that you need to select your applicants appropriately? And we said, yeah, it works pretty good. I like having the transcripts and the CVs and the personal statements and the board scores and stuff. But it just doesn't help me with the really esoteric, intangible things like interpersonal skills and professionalism and the stuff that would really make you a stellar applicant versus just another really smart guy. So the AAMC said, how can we help these folks get through the navigation of, how are your personal skills? How's your professionalism? And they went into the business interviewing literature and found that there are ways to kind of quantify that and score that. And that's why they built the standardized video interview. And then they said, who's going to use it? And emergency medicine, like always, stood up and said, we'll do the groundwork. That's what we do, right? So if you go to that same AAMC website, there's a lot of information about how to navigate the SVI. I'm not going to go too much into detail here, but I would say please go and dig through this and read about it. There's a few things on here that are really cool. One is it kind of breaks down how the interview is set up. This is not a live online interview. We're not going to be talking face-to-face through a computer. This is you getting on the computer, and you'll sit down in front of it, you'll get everything lined up, and the computer will give you a prompt. It'll give you a question and about 30 seconds to read it. Think about it. And then it'll ask you to answer in up to 3 minutes. You do not need to use the whole 3 minutes, but you've got up to 3 minutes. And then it moves to the next question. You got 30 seconds to read it, 3 minutes to answer it. So the whole thing adds up to about a 20, 25-minute experience. Then it gets graded. Actually, I'll hold off on that for a second. It gets.
Yeah, and Tom, just so you know, Renee Overton from the AAMC is going to be the afternoon speaker on the SVI. So you guys are going to get the the person essentially who's behind this is going to come talk to them too. So.
There is a lot of controversy about this, and you're going to hear the AAMC's side. They are, honest to God, trying to build something that is very good and very helpful, and we are doing our best to really test that and find out if it's going to be helpful. It's possible it won't be, and this may go away in 3 or 4 years. It's possible this could be really helpful and might save you guys a ton of money in traveling and not having to do a million live interviews. So I know it's a bit of a pain to go through right now, but it's coming from the heart. It's coming from a place of good intentions, and I really do think it has the potential to be very helpful. So what they'll do is trained scorers will take your 20 minutes worth of answers, and they'll kind of rate you on a scale of 1 to 5 for each one of those, based on things like, could you put sentences together clearly? Did you actually answer the question? Did you show or demonstrate that you have knowledge of interpersonal skills and knowledge of professional behavior? That gets all bundled into a number, and you'll get labeled as a 17 or a 19 or a 23, and that goes into your ERAS application. Really kind of hard to interpret that right now. The programs also have the ability to open up those and look at the videos. You can practice this. On the AAMC website, there's this slide. You don't have to read it here, but you can read it on the website, that tells you just what we're looking for in terms of interpersonal skills and communication. We want to see a little bit about your emotional intelligence, a little bit about teamwork and leadership, and most importantly, there's 3 or 4 practice questions on here. So you can actually practice this. Likewise with knowledge of professional behaviors. We want to know a little bit about your understanding of ethics, your understanding of cultural competence, your conscientiousness, your attention to detail. So they'll give you questions like, tell me about a time when you had a colleague who was exhibiting unprofessional behavior, and how did you deal with that? And then you get to talk about it for a couple of minutes. Now, you don't have to have had an experience. They allow you to kind of postulate or theorize and say, if I was in a situation like this, this is how I would handle it. This is why it's so important to get familiar with this ahead of time and practice it, because you can go to the website today, look at these questions, and get a pretty good feel for what kind of questions are they going to ask you. And then you can start to build a small handful of examples so that when you see these questions on the real interview, you're not blindsided by them, and you can pull up some examples to talk about. Some things to think about would be, have you ever had a colleague in your class that was caught cheating or that you knew they were cheating? How did you handle that? Have you ever had a rough interaction with a patient? How did you handle that? Have you ever been misjudged? Did a nurse accuse you of being flippant or disrespectful when you really weren't? How did you navigate that process? So if you can start now thinking about those kind of things, then you can build the appropriate answers to do fine on the SVI. Stay on top of the deadline for this. It's about to open. It has to be finished by July 15th. That's coming quick. It's coming like a freight train. So I would say look at this in the next couple of days and be on game. You don't want to wait until the last minute and do this panicky, because if something goes wrong, you want to have time to reschedule it. Finally, relax. I want you to trust the system a little bit here. This slide I use a lot to remind people that there are no guarantees in life. The match is geared in your favor, but that doesn't mean you can say, I want to go to Jacksonville and I just want it to work that way. I'm going to make everything happen so that I get exactly what I want. There's some really famous guys who brought this point home a long time ago. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you're going to find out you get what you need. Trust the system. Interview relatively widely. Try and get out to about 10 or 12 different spots. Apply fairly widely. I would recommend applying to at least 20, 30 different programs in different varieties. Keep your mind open. Trust that feel of the fit. Don't pigeonhole yourself early. And trust the match system. Trust your advisors. Know that we all want the best for you. And if we work together, hopefully this is what you'll look like on match day. Any questions, or we can roll them into lunch if you'd rather do that.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and move into lunch? Let's give him a round of applause.